Hello, fellow Patriots, and welcome back to the Patriot Dad channel, where we can discuss current events, modern issues, and culture, all while keeping it as real as possible. Today, we're going to be doing a reaction to a compilation video of Democrats denying the results of elections. Now, this video is 22 minutes long, so we'll see how many different videos we have of denial of election results. It's always funny that whenever a non-Uni-Party member denies the results of an election, everybody throws up their hands and screams and says, "How can you deny the results of an election? You must be some sort of a fill-in-the-blank-ist or Nazi or criminal or something." I don't know. But they're already doing the same thing. The Uni-Party loves projecting, folks, and don't kid yourselves, they do it with almost everything. If you ever hear an audio clip or watch a video of somebody being ridiculed for doing something, just assume that the Uni-Party member doing the accusing is probably already doing it. But before we get started on this video, a quick word. Help support the channel by going to the Discord link down in the description below and joining our community, where we can have open and free discussions with each other. Also consider joining under the subscribe star, where we're going to start weekly live discussions, as well as where you can read articles and gain more exclusive access on the Discord channel. I look forward to seeing you all there. Back to the video. So let's get this video pulled up. And we're going to start with apparently Ms. Hillary Clinton. So this should be fun.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee.
Oh, really?
And you can have the election stolen from you.
Wait a minute. The election stolen from Hillary? That doesn't sound right.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's a real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate?
See, guys, this is what I'm talking about. They just memory hole all this stuff, thinking that the internet and like saved videos don't exist, but they'll just keep talking over it and pretending like, nope, doesn't exist, and they'll just deny it until people give up. So we can't give up because both sides do this, guys. It's not like one person is doing it and the other person's not. No, both sides do this. Both sides are guilty of it. The Uni-Party just sucks, guys. It just does. Talking about illegitimate presidents, talking about all kinds of like this, guys, this is not new. You saw there a 2016 election, right? Joe Biden saying, haha, you want to be my vice president? Like, sure.
Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Russia.
Oh, God. They're just going to keep going to Russia, aren't they? Guys, this has been the most investigated person like ever. If after 7 years of investigating, trying to find ties between Trump and Russia, if they had found any of them, it just makes sense because of how much they hate them, that it would have been public knowledge immediately. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Other than he wants to end the war in Ukraine, which I don't think is proof of supporting Russia at all. I think it's just trying to stop death. We don't want to see more people die. We want the world to be a more peaceful place. Apparently, some people don't want that. They just want to keep selling bombs for their friends in BlackRock.
Interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
Oh God, this is gonna be painful to get through, guys. For me and for you, because
president or elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
Yep, not proven. Nice try, though. Lots of Congress people here, guys. Lots of presidential candidates here, guys.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
Did we?
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Our election was hijacked. There is no question. Congress has a duty to hashtag protect our democracy and
Oh, really, Ms. Pelosi, in 2017. So right after Trump took office, saying that Congress has a duty to protect our democracy. Guys, we're not a democracy. Don't let them keep repeating it until you believe it. We are not a democracy. We're a representative republic, and we are that on purpose. You don't want us to be a democracy.
Follow the facts.
John Lewis is completely right. There is a cloud of illegitimacy around the election of Donald Trump.
Created by the media.
Russians interfered with his election. James Comey and the FBI interfered with his election. The fake news industry interfered with his election.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president who got illegitimate foreign help.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes. So that was a very tainted election, and in that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't.
Yeah, Trump is the only one that called an election illegitimate, right?
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
Stolen emails, stolen election. Welcome to the world of unprecedented Trump.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract.
He tweeted in February 2018, quote, "The more we learn about the 2016 election, the more illegitimate it becomes. America deserves to know whether we have a fake president in the Oval Office."
Oh, again, like, guys, these committees, all these investigations, they keep saying, oh, look, we have evidence. Oh, we have this and that. Like Nadler here, a bunch of other folks were all like, we have evidence. Russia collusion, Russia. Where is it? Present it to the American people. I dare you. I don't think it exists.
The Russian attempt to have the election, and frankly, the FBI is weighing in on the election, I think makes his election illegitimate.
There was a widespread understanding that this election was not on the level. We still don't know what really happened, Isaac. I mean, there's just a lot that I think will be revealed, history will discover, but you don't win by 3 million votes and have all this other shenanigan stuff going on and not come away with an idea like, whoa, something's not right here.
You're right, you don't, which is why we questioned 2020. And you guys treated us like we were crazy for seeing some discrepancies and being like, maybe something's afoot here. And you're like, no, you guys are crazy for thinking that. Why would you think that? Everything was on the level. And 2024 has already been crazy, folks. If you don't think it's going to get worse, like, you are kidding yourself.
Seems to me that there's a cloud of illegitimacy that continues to hang over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I also keep saying the same names.
Was affected by their interference, and now we need to know, to what degree, if any, the Trump campaign was actually in collusion with with Russia.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
Does he?
Of course he's obsessed with me. And I believe that it's a guilty conscience.
We actually won the last presidential election, folks.
Hold on. Did Hillary Clinton really just talk about a guilty conscience? What is the body count of that family? Like, if any, like I said, projection in the beginning, projection. If anybody's going to have a guilty conscience, it's going to be a Clinton family member.
And Al Gore won that election. I think he won it anyway.
Actually, I think I carried Florida.
Al Gore.
Oh, again, here we are all the way back to 2000. I've said it in previous videos, folks. I think this election was stolen narrative started in 2000 with the hanging chads. We'll see if they bring those up, because that was the big deal back then. Oh, you got to get rid of paper ballots. These hanging chads. You can't tell what the person wanted. It's like Bish. They punched out the hole and the thing's hanging. All the other holes for the other candidates are not hanging. Like, what do you mean you can't tell who they wanted to vote for? It's like taking a Scantron test and your teacher's like, well, the full bubble wasn't filled in, so it's wrong. Guys, these people are evil. It's the only answer.
Won the election nationwide and also in Florida, but the Supreme Court ruled the other way.
Al Gore got more votes, but not enough to stay out of the Supreme Court, where President Bush was elected 5-4.
Bush versus Gore. A court took away a president.
Is it just me, or hold on, let me look at the timestamp. Okay, 424. Let's go back to. She really doesn't look that much different, guys. Like, she looks like she's put on a little age and a little weight, but like, guys, she's had to have had some work done. Okay, that's a really bad shot. Let's go back to where we were.
A presidency.
If all the votes were counted in Florida,
okay,
that Al Gore would be president today and George Bush would be back in office.
I come from Florida, where you and others participated in what I call the United States coup d'etat.
In 2013, according to reports, Vice President Joe Biden, he claimed that Al Gore was the one who was elected president.
Of course he did.
And he claimed that the recount result was, quote, a bad decision.
And never forget, dear friends, what they did in Florida to Al Gore and me, to all of us.
Oh,
to
boo.
older Americans, to African Americans, to Haitian Americans.
We bring up race, gender. It's always some characteristic that somebody can't control. We are always dividing, like as far back as 2000, guys. Guys, the Uni-Party has been running by the same playbook for decades and decades.
Denied the right to vote and have those votes counted.
I do believe that the projections were right in the first place at 7 o'clock when they called it for Gore.
Let me tell you something.
What?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
George Bush did not carry Florida, and it was not close.
There's no question that you won the state of Florida.
There isn't?
Oh, thank you, Charles.
No, it's a question. That's a question.
We will never know because the votes weren't counted. But
and did, in your judgment...
No, I mean, that's a fact. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And there is no other way of saying it but be very blunt. Al Gore won the state of Florida in 2000, and we should never forget it.
Most Americans, a great many Americans, don't have confidence that the election of 2000 was fair.
But I don't believe we lost. I believe we just failed to have all of the votes counted.
The Supreme Court elected the president. 2004, yes. Al Gore won the state of Florida in 2000, although not the presidency.
We know we won this election. They know we won this election. And Americans know we won this election.
I know some people want you to believe.
Guys, as the DNC chairs, because a whole bunch of the people they just showed were former DNC chairpersons, isn't it kind of your job to say that you guys won? Like, I can't really fault them for that, I guess, but like, don't now pretend like only one person has ever denied an election result. Just don't do that. Especially when we can pull the video, guys.
That the Gore campaign was a campaign that wasn't able to complete its mission. We did. Had all of those votes been counted in Florida, I think Al Gore would be president today.
We had more votes. We won, and we are never going to let the United States Supreme Court choose the President of the United States again.
You should know by now, based on the fact that he lost the popular vote by more than 500,000 voters. And we don't know how many he lost in Florida.
There's no doubt in my mind that Al Gore was elected president.
I rise to object to the fraudulent 25 Florida electoral votes.
Really, we won the election in 2000, but they stole the election.
I must object because of the overwhelming evidence of official misconduct.
Misconduct, fraud, not counting all the votes, miscounting votes. Like, does this sound familiar to anybody? Also, the popular vote only matters in each area. The national popular vote does not matter at all. And they keep trying to use this as a bludgeon to try and remove the Electoral College. Do y'all understand what the Electoral College is for? Or do you want New York City, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Chicago, and like Detroit deciding everything? Because I don't think you do. That would mean like 5 or 6 progressive cities would dictate the policy for all of the United States. Like, screw that.
The chair must remind Enron had already helped the Bush team with such favors as ferrying their rent-a-mob to Florida in 2000 to permanently halt the counting of...
This sounds like Antifa now. So you liked how it was done against you, so now you do it to others? Okay, you're learning, I guess.
Legally cast ballots.
It is signed by myself on behalf of my diverse constituents and the millions of Americans who have been disenfranchised by Florida's inaccurate vote count.
The Supreme Court, not the people of the United States, decided this election.
Speaking to a Democratic group in Chicago Tuesday, he made it clear he thinks Al Gore was the winner.
By the time it was over, our candidate had won the popular vote.
Doesn't matter.
And the only way they could win the election was to stop the voting in Florida.
Catherine Harris, Jeb Bush, Jim Baker, and the Supreme Court hadn't tampered with the results, Al Gore would be president.
I think that the issue before us today is not who won or should have won the 2000 presidential
And what
election.
is it?
That issue has been settled, not to my belief, but it has been settled.
Ray Davis. Oh, God.
Let's just drop the vice. President Gore, that's all right.
You got impeached, bro.
should have been president of the United States.
Al Gore made it possible for George Bush to be the only appointed president in the history of these United States.
Democrats have won the past 3 presidential elections.
In 2000, unions turned out 25% of the vote, and Al Gore won.
But the Supreme Court tampered? That's a large charge. The Supreme Court stopped the counting of the votes, and if they'd let the count go on, Al Gore would have got the necessary votes.
The Supreme
You're
Court
speculating.
selected George W. Bush as the president. He was not elected.
There is overwhelming evidence that George W. Bush,
Not elected, but selected. I actually think I remember hearing that back in the day. Guys, this is not a new narrative.
Bush did not win this election.
What I observed as a voter, as a citizen of Illinois 4 years ago, were troubling evidence of the fact that not every vote was being counted.
Don't think that George W. Bush won the election in 2000 against Al Gore, because I think he probably lost Florida and also that nationwide.
If you invite me back on this show in about 8 weeks, I think you're going to learn that Al Gore actually did get all the votes there.
I felt what happened in Florida was a carefully worked out conspiracy. That many things could not go wrong in one state without the
Or like in a handful of states, like when counting stops in the middle of the night and then there's a sudden spike in votes. You mean like that?
Having been a conspiracy, and many different things did go wrong. Many tricks were pulled of various kinds.
The vice president did win, but and I do believe that the majority of voters that intended to go to polls last year wanted to vote and cast their votes for Al Gore. I do believe that in terms of Florida as well.
Interesting coming from the lady who was fired from CNN for supplying the questions to Hillary Clinton's campaign ahead of a debate. Kind of amusing, don't you think?
As well.
The court has been thwarting formation of the popular will, the most spectacular example being Bush versus Gore, where the majority, by a 5-4 vote, enjoined the counting of more than 100,000 ballots in Florida and essentially gave America its first court-appointed president.
The race hustler.
Won the election, he won't take office.
That election was stolen from the rightful winner. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm here today to talk about a stolen presidential election.
I think in 2000, everybody thought, well, he did win the election, Al Gore.
He started dividing America here in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
By trying to take an election. That I think any reasonable person would say he hadn't actually won.
And that's another thing the Uni-Party likes to do, folks, is they will say any reasonable person just knows this, whatever, fill in the blank, whatever. They're like, any reasonable person knows this. It's trying to make you feel like you're being irrational or unreasonable for thinking something that is just blatantly obvious. Don't let them convince you, folks. Just don't.
What happened in Florida will go down in history as a coup d'etat.
They
like that word.
Possible that there was a conspiracy and Florida officials were involved in the conspiracy. Never have so many things gone so wrong in one place before.
Until 2020.
How did all these things happen all at the same time in the same state? And is not it possible that there was a conspiracy that was very well organized?
It's possible.
Why were the state police out there on that day, election day, checking license plates? And so forth. You know, how did all these things happen in one state at one time?
I'm sorry. You want full-fledged government surveillance, like people going to synagogues and churches during COVID and all kinds of, like just state police and FBI and all that? That's very progressive of you.
One election, is it possible that we ought to use the word conspiracy and not be afraid of it?
And I sure wish Gore was president right now. He should be.
Well, he actually got elected.
A battle that by the will of the people should have ended in victory. But tens of thousands of Florida votes either were not counted or tossed out in the 2000 presidential election.
5 Supreme Court justices.
Nobody said Chad
Trump
yet.
The votes of 51 million Americans.
Trump.
We should have let the entire state be recounted so that it was clear that Al Gore actually won the state of Florida.
And Al Gore won the election.
We had the election stolen from us. And you must admit that.
I don't have to.
And we need a leader to help us get revenge.
Revenge?
I voted for Al Gore. He won the election.
They usurped the
the powers of the Florida Supreme Court and intervened, it was a fix as far as we're concerned. You know,
Who's we?
No polite way to talk about it, except the fix was in.
After the election, when you stole the election,
Oh.
you came back here and said, get over it. No, we're not going to get over it.
You told us that.
I know it, they know it. We won that election.
Constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio.
Ooh, alcohol's been rough on
And
her.
malfunctioning electronic machines, which may not have paper receipts, have led to additional loss of confidence by the public.
The election machines, 2004.
Qualified voters.
The New Yorker reported that Kerry thought that, quote, proxies for Bush had rigged many of the voting machines.
In 2004, the democratic process was thwarted.
The 2004 presidential election in Ohio was riddled.
But now they want electric voting machines because they're like, oh, no, they're super reliable. There's nothing wrong with them now.
With unnecessary problems.
Some machines malfunction, causing votes to be counted more than once, or not at all.
Based upon an inordinate number of allegations suggesting gross voting rights violations and misconduct, I join with my colleagues in objecting to counting the state of Ohio's electoral votes.
As in 2000, the votes of many who wanted to vote were not, in fact, counted.
This last Friday night, I arranged to meet Senator Kerry at a fundraiser to give him a copy of my book. He told me he now thinks the election was stolen.
The wife of John Kerry said she has lingering doubts about the legitimacy of the election. Her theory goes like this. Two brothers, she calls hard right Republicans, own 80% of voting machines in the U.S. Therefore, it would be easy to hack into the mother machines that control the electronic voting.
There were numerous irregularities in Ohio.
Sounds familiar.
Including large percentages of rejections of provisional balloting, problems with voting machines.
As we look at our election system, I think it's fair to say that there are many legitimate questions about its accuracy, about its integrity.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections.
Guys, this has been happening for over 20 years.
Obviously is how many instances were not caught that we don't know about. Number one, we've seen a lot of what I'll call honest glitches where it just didn't work right. But also that
piss off, Nadler.
A dishonest employee of the vendor or a dishonest employee of a local board of elections or simply someone who knows electronics and has a computer at home. Could hack into these machines and put in a secret instruction to disregard every 20th Democratic vote or add 10% to the Kerry or to the Bush vote or whatever.
You know what's interesting though? Like, they're telling us how they do it. They're like, they're doing this. No. Remember, if you're pointing at somebody, you got 3 fingers pointed at you, unless you're knife handing somebody. Always knife hand. Keeps people from saying you have fingers pointed at you. I don't. Knife hand. But yeah, they're telling us how they do it, guys. They're straight up just telling us. This is how it could be done. No, this is how they're doing it.
You might not ever know it.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine.
That's crazy. He looks almost the same also, like 20 years later. They're so old, guys. Get boomers out of office.
That there is no paper trail to record that vote.
The numerous irregularities that occurred with the electronic voting machines in Ohio on November the 2nd of last year point to an unresolved national crisis.
We cannot
Still
declare
unresolved.
that the election of November 2nd, 2004 was free and clear and transparent and real. There must be independent testing of the voting machines used in Ohio.
I'm not confident that the election in Ohio was fairly decided.
I wonder if they did that
there was
testing.
Substantial voter suppression, and the machines were not reliable.
The members of Congress who have brought this challenge are speaking up for their aggrieved constituents, many of whom may have been disenfranchised in this process.
Treating today's
sounds so
electoral
familiar.
count in Congress as a meaningless ritual would be an insult to our democracy unless we registered our own protest against the obviously flawed voting process that took place in so many of our states.
Voters who wish to cast a vote for president or vice president can't approach the polls with certainty that their vote will be counted.
One of the most significant problems in Ohio and in many other states was the lack of measures to ensure the integrity of electronic voting machines.
In 2004, they caused Democratic voters in Ohio to wait for 8 hours before they could cast their ballot. They turned the Department of Civil Rights of the Justice Department into the Voter Suppression Division with
But this is also why Election Day should just be a holiday. How that's going to work in critical facilities like power plants and others, I don't know. They'll have to figure that out. But the average person should have no trouble getting to the polls and taking the time required to vote. They just shouldn't. There should be no excuse. Because if you make it so that working is an impediment to voting, you're going to get a bunch of non-productive, just dirtbags with no jobs voting, and all the people with jobs will be disenfranchised. That's not right. The people with the jobs should be the ones voting, not the other way around. Net taxpayers, people with skin in the game.
Voter ID laws, voter purging, voter caging, voter intimidation. There aren't going to be any more election stealings.
I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won. But I didn't lose. I got the votes. But we won't know exactly how many because of how they cheated. I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job. We were robbed of an election.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia.
Oh, gee, thanks, Kamala.
Andrew Gillum is the governor of Florida.
Using the word rigged, using the word steal, do you think it's dangerous going into 2020?
I don't, because we can actually back it up. And so in response to what I believe...
And then we can steal it in 2020.
...stolen election, and I'm not saying they stole it from me, they stole it from the voters of Georgia. In fact, someone outside asked if I'm ever going to concede. The answer is no.
If she
still
had
hasn't
a fair election, she already would have won.
This is not a speech of concession. Because concession means to acknowledge an action is right, true, or proper. And I will not concede because the erosion of our democracy is not right.
Not a democracy.
You concede and say that you lost. Do you stand by that decision today?
Absolutely.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear.
Is it?
Steal your election. It was not a free and fair election. I think the election was stolen from the people of Georgia. I believe it was stolen from the voters.
I think that Stacey Abrams' election is being stolen from her.
The election was not fair. The process was not fair. Thousands of Georgians had their voices stolen because they were not able to cast ballots, and they cannot be guaranteed that their votes will be counted in 2020 if we don't do this right.
If what happens to you happens
we'll just vote for them, just in case.
Whoever wins the Democratic nominee, if they say, actually, I can prove that there's a number of votes in every state and that the same thing that you just described happens in multiple states, should they concede?
I do not think we should concede an election until we know the results of an election. I still fundamentally believe it.
Interesting.
And that's just not how life works. If it looks like it's cheating, it probably is. If it looks like it's rigged, it probably is.
She would be the governor of Georgia today.
So you're saying 2020 was stolen then?
Had the governor of Georgia not disenfranchised 1.4 million Georgia voters before the election. That's what happened to Stacey Abrams. They took the votes away.
We've been raised to believe that it is
all right, Terry. Uncouth?
Call question. That if you want to run for office again, you've got to concede the election so that everyone knows you're a good sport.
Well,
you notably
that's
did
obvious.
Not concede. I did not. Okay, you acknowledged that he won, but you did not concede.
Correct.
5 months later, do you still feel like your opponent won through voter suppression?
Yes.
Reminder, she wrote.
Hey,
Brian
Tucker.
Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams.
I said that the election was stolen from Georgia voters. The process that took place during the legislative cycle was one that did not countenance and did not pay attention to the deep and real concerns of those who watched this election be stolen in the state of Georgia. It was stolen from the voters of Georgia. Georgia voters did not have their votes counted. They were not allowed to cast votes. They had their votes discarded.
They weren't allowed to?
Appearance of unfairness, and I think there was.
Holder.
Stacey ran a great campaign. She probably won.
And it was not fair to those who filled out absentee ballots, and depending on the county you sent it to, it either was counted or not counted, assuming you received it in time.
Yeah,
Brian Kemp oversaw for 8 years the systematic and systemic dismantling of our democracy.
Not a democracy.
That means there could not be free and fair elections in Georgia. As long as we have eligible American citizens who cannot cast a ballot, then the game is rigged. I am complicit if I say that that system is fair. Concession.
I think it's funny they blurred out the CBS logo in the back.
In the political space is an acknowledgement that the process was fair. And I don't believe that to be so.
You don't think it was fair?
I refuse to concede because concession means that the process was proper, that the result was true and right.
And yet they wanted Trump to concede 2020.
and I cannot say that.
I tend to say I didn't lose, I just didn't win.
And I don't call it a loss, I just didn't win.
That same thing.
Yes, you did. Okay, officially. Yeah, officially. Put it this way, I didn't get to get inaugurated, and that's problematic. Okay. But will I say that this election was not tainted, was not a disinvestment and a disenfranchisement of thousands of voters? I will not say that.
Candidates, both black and white, lost their races because they have been deprived of the votes they otherwise would have gotten. And the clearest example is from next door in Georgia. Stacey Abrams should be governor, leading that state right now.
I was joking with Beth.
And Trump should be president, but here we are.
Backstage when Cliff said, she lost, I'm like, no, I just didn't win. Because we don't know what really happened because of the miasma of voter suppression. I can't know.
But it's that same miasma of voter suppression, guys. The same obfuscation of the process and the results that ended up happening again in 2020 and in 2022. Like it's still happening, guys. They don't want to solve this problem. They want this to continue so they can keep doing whatever they want with these elections. There's not going to be any accountability.
For a fact that I would be the governor of Georgia, but for the malfeasance and the mismanagement of Brian Kemp, but I know it's a pretty good guess. So I can't prove that I would have won, but I know we don't know because of how he behaved.
Is he the legitimate governor-elect of Georgia?
He is the person who won an adequate number of votes
but that's
to become the governor.
With all due respect, and I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising, you're not answering the question.
I don't think you do.
Do you think it was... You're not using the word legitimate. Is he the legitimate governor-elect of Georgia?
He is the legal governor of Georgia.
You see, I'm here to tell you that just because you win doesn't mean you're won.
You said to me that you did not lose, you just did not win.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that.
Bad news is that we didn't get the victory we secured. And the thing is, we will never know empirically that I got more votes because we will never know which votes didn't get counted.
Or counted twice.
This is not fair.
Or who actually voted.
Not right. And it is deeply improper.
How many dead people voted Democrat? Never know.
Someone could ascend to that role having performed so basely and so crassly against the very people he is now supposed to represent.
The election was not fair. The process was not fair.
So you don't feel that you lost fair and square?
I do recognize I am not the governor of Georgia.
Okay.
But I do like to point out something that is true for me and for many in our state, and that is we won.
I'm not saying it's going to be legit. The increase in the prospect of being illegitimate is a direct proportion to us not being able to get these reforms passed.
Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election.
Do they now? Interesting. So you can see there that this whole concept of stolen elections is not new. It's been happening since 2000 and probably long before then, but really publicly and recorded for history purposes, we have strong evidence that all the way back to 2000, so for almost a quarter of a century, almost never has the side that lost admitted they lost. There's almost always accusations of fraud, of disenfranchisement, of stolen elections, of everything. Guys, this is not a new concept. This was not a Trump-only concept. Don't listen to them. Just watch it, read about it, talk about it. Don't let them lie to you. Don't believe the lies. And don't be surprised, as you just saw, that 2024, we're going to have the same accusations, guys. No one's going to want to admit they lost. Everyone's going to say the other person cheated or stole it. Like, we really need to just return to the basics. Paper ballots, one-day election, like the basics. The basics. It's the only way that it's going to be a trustworthy process. These electronic machines are not trustworthy. This counting all into the middle of the night, stopping counting, starting counting, not letting observers from the other party in the room, like none of this stuff is going to allow us to have a trustworthy process. So we need to return to the basics and bring confidence back to our elections. Thank you to those of you that made it to the end of the video. I greatly appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it and leave a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this one on the channel, please make sure you subscribe and click the little bell icon so that you can be notified when I upload additional content. Please, if you have a recommendation for a future topic or video you would like to see on the channel, leave it in a comment below, as a lot of the videos on this channel do come from viewer recommendations from people just like you. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and bye for now. Go ahead and check out one of the links on the screen now to either subscribe to the channel and see the rest of the videos of the channel, or one of the carefully selected videos that you may wish to see that YouTube has used its algorithm to select for you.